Hello, welcome to A Warrior's Wisdom. Today, a great friend of mine, Dr. Mark Edward Cody, martial artist, just tactical genius, great friend, very knowledgeable human being. Mark.
Stoney, pleasure to be here.
How are you, buddy?
Fantastic.
Cool. Dr. Mark Edward Cody, doctor in martial arts.
Martial philosophy, right.
Martial philosophy. What is that all about?
Well, the thing that I've studied most is how the martial arts relate in day-to-day life. Martial arts in the modern context is not very useful as opposed to, say, a firearm for self-defense. I can take someone with a firearm and in a few hours teach them to defend themselves against a person much larger than themselves. As you know, as a martial arts instructor, it takes much longer in teaching someone unarmed fighting techniques to be able to do this. But the philosophy that goes with the martial arts, the idea of self-reliance, of awareness, of preparedness, being aware of your surroundings, this has a lot more to do with self-defense than just being able to punch and kick. And the martial philosophy, it's not just about self-defense, it's about how we can spiritually learn from the martial arts as a metaphor in our day-to-day life.
Cool. And now, why would you get in such a deep study of martial arts? I mean, I've been studying martial arts for many, many years, had in my school for 30 years, and you've been involved in martial arts as long as I've known you. You were about 14 when I met you.
14 or 15.
Why? I mean, why so deep?
Well, the samurai said bun buichi, pen and sword in accord, or pen and sword together in unison. The idea of being a warrior, bushi, Bushido, the way of the warrior. The Japanese characters that make up the word Bushido, the bu is a symbol for military. It has the connotation of strength, of physical strength and power. Shi means man, that has the connotation of a man of letters, a learned man, an educated man. And do, Bushido, the do means a way or a path. It's the Japanese equivalent of the Chinese Tao, as in Taoism. So the idea is to be a warrior, you have to be physically strong, spiritually strong, and mentally strong. The idea, we symbolize it in much of our symbolism that we use in the martial arts is a triangle. The human being is composed of a body, a mind, and a spirit.
Roger that. Now, when we started messing around with the idea of a warrior's wisdom, when we hang out together, you're 6'6", 260 pounds. I'm 5'6", maybe 160 pounds. And when we labeled ourselves as the wise man and the warrior. And I always ended up being the warrior. You ended up being the wise man. Kind of throws people off. Samurai, the word samurai. I know when people consider me or talk to me as a samurai, most people think of a samurai as the guy that goes around when he's having a bad day, he cuts everybody's head off in town. Is that, what is a samurai?
Well, a lot of the historical samurai did do that. They had the legal right to, as they called it, kill and walk away. So the samurai were very much judge, jury, and executioner in many senses. But the ideal of the samurai, just as the ideal of the European knight, is best embodied by the literal translation of the word samurai. Samurai means a servant. And although just in the West, the European knight never achieved the apex of chivalry the way they did in our stories of the Grail romances, King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table. In the real world, they never really achieved that level. Just as in feudal Japan, they never achieved the ideals of Bushido. But that was what they strove for. One samurai writer, he said, these days, and this was writing in the 1400s, he said, these days, there's not any good examples. So what you have to do is you have to draw from people from history, people from fiction, people you know, and pick and choose the best qualities of these people into a composite, and that is what you strive towards. You try to become that person that you can imagine.
Well, it's like Gichin Funakoshi said, the way, who will pass it on straight and true. I think our job as martial artists and samurai is to lead the people, teach the people, lead by example. Is that your understanding of what our job is here?
Well, every story that we have is a story about conflict. It's against man, man against nature, man against God, man against himself. It's always conflict. And the conflict is always something that's engaged in by a warrior. So as a metaphor, there's a lot to be learned from this.
I know we're going to do some more shows, and the shows that we're going to be touching on are going to be the way of the Japanese sword, Iaido, cutting and different techniques with the sword. We're also going to do some tactical firearm stuff, you and I together, and concealed weapon carry. So those mindsets, the warrior, tough guy stuff, and yet you're this intellect, this guy that reads many, many books and remembers almost everything. And I mean, it's kind of cool having you here, but the power of who you are as a human being, just the size of you and who you are in appearance, yet the first man to look for the door when trouble breaks out because you're a peaceful man. Why?
Well, the concept is the power of violence should bring an appreciation of peace and humility. Now, historically, that doesn't happen very often. Very often, the people with the power of violence are usually the people that use it to oppress other people. But again, the ideal, if you approach it in the right way, the idea is you become capable of violence, you become strong so that you can extend mercy. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, I've often laughed at those who think themselves to be kind men because they have no claws. The idea being that the only way you can turn the other cheek and let it have any merit is to have an option. If you are weak, if you're incapable of defending yourself, you're just a victim. You're not turning the other cheek, you're just getting the snot beat out of you.
Together, we're going to create a great space for people to learn. We're going to teach them how to survive themselves and how to lead their family or the people that rely on them to a better space. So I appreciate you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.